And you may remember last spring I got into quite a back and forth with the Pentagon because I was concerned they were not planning for withdrawal, because that was contrary to their strategy or their stated position. And I began to press them to let us know, and they were very resistant and gave only cursory information to us. So I've said that I will ask the Joint Chiefs and the Secretary of Defense and my security advisors the very first day I'm president to begin to draw up such a plan so that we can withdraw. But I just want to be very clear with people that it's not only bringing our young men and women and our equipment out, which is dangerous. They've got to go down those same roads where they have been subjected to bombing and so much loss of life and injury. We have to think about what we're going to do with the more than 100,000 American civilians who are there, working for the embassy, working for businesses, working for charities. And I also believe we've got to figure out what to do with the Iraqis who sided with us. You know, a lot of the drivers and translators saved so many of our young men and women's lives, and I don't think we can walk out on them without having some plan as to how to take care of those who are targeted. At the same time, we've got to tell the Iraqi government there is no more time. They're out of time. They've got to make the tough decisions they have avoided making. They've got to take responsibility for their own country. And you know, I think both Barack and I have tried in these debates, and sometimes been pushed by some of our opponents to be as responsible as we can be, because we know that this president, based on what he said in the State of the Union, intends to leave at least 130,000, if not more, troops in Iraq as he exits. It's the most irresponsible abdication of what should be a presidential commitment to end what he started. So we will inherit it, and therefore I will do everything I can to get as many of our troops out as quickly as possible, taking into account all of these contingencies that we're going to have to contend with once we're in charge and once we can get into the Pentagon to figure out what's really there and what's going on.
But you can't make a commitment, though, that 16 months after your inauguration will be enough time?
I certainly hope it will be. And I've said I hope to have nearly all of them out within a year.
All right.
Now, but I do think it is important for us to set a date. And the reason I think it is important is because if we are going to send a signal to the Iraqis that we are serious and prompt the Shia, the Sunni, and the Kurds to actually come together and negotiate, they have to have clarity about how serious we are. It can't be muddy. It can't be fuzzy. They've got to know that we are serious about this process. And I also think we've got to be very clear about what our mission is. There may be a difference here between Senator Clinton and myself in terms of the force structures that we would leave behind. Both of us have said we would make sure that our embassies and our civilians are protected. Both of us have said that we've got to care for Iraqi civilians, including the 4 million who've been displaced already. We already have a humanitarian crisis, and we have not taken those responsibilities seriously. We both have said that we need to have a strike force that can take out potential terrorist bases that get set up in Iraq. But the one thing that I think is very important is that we not get mission creep, and we not start suggesting that we should have troops in Iraq to blunt Iranian influence. If we were concerned about Iranian influence, we should not have had this government installed in the first place. We shouldn't have invaded in the first place. It was part of the reason that I think it was such a profound strategic error for us to go into this war in the first place. And that's one of the reasons why I think I will be, just to finish up this point, I think I will be the Democrat who will be most effective in going up against a John McCain or any other Republican, because they all want basically a continuation of George Bush's policies, because I will offer a clear contrast. As somebody who never supported this war, thought it was a bad idea, I don't want to just end the war, but I want to end the mindset that got us in the war in the first place. That's the kind of leadership I intend to provide as President of the United States.
And of course,
Senator Clinton, that's a clear swipe at you.
Really?
I wouldn't call it a swipe.
We're having such a good time. We are. We're having a wonderful time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I am so proud to have the support of leaders like Congresswoman Maxine Waters, who's here with us tonight, who was one of the original conveners of the Out of Iraq Caucus, because it is imperative that as we move forward with what will be a very difficult process, there are no good options here. We have to untangle ourselves and navigate through some very treacherous terrain. And as we do so, it is absolutely clear to me that we have to send several messages at once. Yes, we are withdrawing, and I personally believe that is the best message to send to the Iraqis, that they need to know that they have to get serious, because so far they have been under the illusion that the Bush administration and the Republicans, who have more of the same, will be there indefinitely. And I also think it's important to send that message to the region, because I think that Iran, Syria, the other countries in the neighborhood are going to find themselves in a very difficult position as we withdraw. You know, be careful what you wish for. They will be dragged into what is sectarian divisiveness with many different factions among the three main groups. Therefore, we need to start diplomatic efforts immediately, getting the Iranians, the Syrians, and others to the table. It's in their interest, it's in our interest, and it certainly is in the Iraqis' interest. Right. The other point that I want to underscore, though, is that I asked Barack a few debates ago, we've had so many of them, to join with me on legislation, which he has agreed to do, that's very important to prevent President Bush from committing our country to an ongoing presence in Iraq. That is something he is trying to push, and we are pushing legislation to prevent him from doing that. He has taken the view that I find absolutely indefensible, that he doesn't have to bring any such agreement about permanent bases, about ongoing occupation, and if Senator McCain is the nominee, 100 years as stretching forward, he doesn't have to bring that to the United States Congress. He only has to get the approval of the Iraqi parliament. Well, we are saying absolutely no, and we're going to do everything we can to prevent him from binding any of us going into the future in a way that will undermine America's interests. So
we
that's
have
a critical
follow-up question on this subject from Jean Cummings. Go ahead, Jean.
Senator Clinton, this one is for you. Judgment has been an issue that's been raised as part of this debate about Iraq. It's been raised by Senator Obama on a number of occasions. And as this debate has gone on, more than half of the Politico readers have voted for this question, and it is, in effect, a judgment question. It comes from Howard Schuman from Pittsburgh, Maine. And he asked, before the U.S. invasion of Iraq, you could have voted for the Levin Amendment, which required President Bush to report to Congress about the UN inspection before taking military action. Why did you vote against that amendment?
Well, Howard, that's an important question, and the reason is because although I believe strongly that we needed to put inspectors in, that was the underlying reason why I at least voted to give President Bush the authority, put those inspectors in, let them do their work, figure out what is there and what isn't there. And I have the greatest respect for my friend and colleague, Senator Levin. He's my chairman on the Senate Armed Services Committee. The way that amendment was drafted suggested that the United States would subordinate whatever our judgment might be going forward to the United Nations Security Council. I don't think that was a good precedent. Therefore, I voted against it. I did vote with Senator Byrd to limit the authority that was being given to President Bush to 1 year, and that also was not approved. You know, I've said many times, if I had known then what I know now, I never would have given President Bush the authority. It was a sincere vote based on my assessment at the time and what I believed he would do with the authority he was given. He abused that authority. He misused that authority. I warned at the time it was not authority for a preemptive war. Nevertheless, he went ahead and waged one, which has led to the position we find ourselves in today. But I think now we have to look at how we go forward. There will be a great debate between us and the Republicans, because the Republicans are still committed to George Bush's policy. And some are more committed than others, with Senator McCain's recent comments. He's now accusing me of surrendering because I believe we should withdraw starting within 60 days of my becoming president. Well, that is a debate I welcome. because I think the Democrats have a much better grasp of the reality of the situation that we are confronting. And we have to continue to press that case. It will be important, however, that our nominee be able to present both a reasoned argument against continuing our presence in Iraq and the necessary credentials and gravitas for Commander-in-Chief. That has to cross that threshold in the mind of every American voter. The Republicans will try to put either one of us into the same box, that if we oppose this president's Iraq policy, somehow we cannot fully represent the interests of the United States, be Commander-in-Chief. I reject that out of hand, and I actually welcome that debate with whomever they nominate.
Senator.